Hello, hello. Welcome to I Like Art podcast. My name is Sara Glupker, and I have an artist interview today. This summer is just packed full of artist interviews on my show, and I think it's just a time for us to kind of sit back and get to know some more artists. I know last week a few weeks ago, I had Carrie Schmidt on my show, and she mentioned something where she had some workers coming to her house to work on it. And they said she was the only living artist that they knew. And that's a problem, guys. And I know you're here and I may be preaching to the choir, but it is so important to get to know live contemporary artists because artists have a way of communicating what's going on in our world today, and they create amazing things, and they need to be celebrated more, and they need to be supported. And so this is part of my mission, is to highlight my favorite contemporary artists. So today I get to talk to one of my favorite contemporary artists of today. She is one of the art queens, and that's how I got to know her. And her name is Jennifer Leo. And for right now, I really encourage you to hit the pause button and look Jennifer Leo up. Her website is, I believe it's jenleoart.com. Am I right?
jenleostudio.com.
jenleostudio.com. It's in the show notes. I encourage you to hit the pause button and take 5 or 10 minutes, look at her art, get a sense of what her art looks like, because I think it's so cool to connect the voice to the artwork. After that, come back, please, and enjoy this episode with Jen. Jennifer is a Canadian artist and designer from Toronto, Canada. She's an alumni of Ontario College of Art and Design. Jennifer has studied abroad in Florence, Italy, where she currently resides. The influence of Tuscan life and culture remains an integral part of her art, and she works effortlessly to share her experience and passions in the creative community and internationally. Her bold, colorful, and abstract works have become a staple of her artistic identity, and they take the viewer on an evocative journey of curiosity and awareness. So without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce to you my artist friend, Jennifer Leo in Florence, Italy. Welcome, Jen.
Hi, Sarah. I'm so excited to talk to you.
I'm so excited to have you on my show. Thank you so much for your time. And are you in Florence, or you're close to Florence?
I'm in Florence. Yeah, I'm right in the center of Florence in Tuscany. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So as an artist in the United States and in Michigan, Europe is number one on my list of places I want to go. And so I'm hoping maybe next summer or soon I can come visit you, because that's on my bucket list and it would be amazing.
Also, I love having visitors, so please do come anytime.
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm taking you up on that offer, and I'm going to come visit you, and it's going to be awesome. So for those of us who don't know who you are and want to know more about you, tell us all about you. What was your childhood like? When did you know you were an artist? Describe your journey into becoming an artist in Italy, all the way from Canada. I love your story so much, and I was peeking on your blog and checking it out on your website. And so I would just love for you to share any of those tidbits that you want with us.
Yeah, it's definitely been a long journey. I was always an artistic person. I was definitely a creative child. As long as I can remember, no doubt about it. I think my favorite thing doing as a kid was just to be alone and color, and I was just in my own world, in my own heaven. So it's a passion that's definitely been with me from very, very young. And I was always, the art student in the class through school, through high school. And so when it got time to go into university and choose what I would study as a career, there was really no doubt that I would go into a creative field and study the fine arts. And so that's what I did. I went to, as you mentioned, the Ontario College of Art and Design in Toronto, and I got my fine arts degree. And that's kind of really where I started my professional journey as an artist. And that's also where my story in Italy kind of began. And so I've been on this sort of on again, off again relationship with Italy ever since that time in university. And so how I transitioned into that, with my university, there was a program to study in Florence. So we had the opportunity, you can apply and you could be selected to be one of these students to go and spend basically an independent study year in the university studios here in Florence. And I was all over that. I applied in my fourth year, which would have been my thesis year, and I got accepted to the program. So I came here with 20, 25 other students. We each had our own studio space, and basically the objective was just to work on our body of art over the year and work on developing our style, work on developing our identity. I did my thesis in my painting style, and that's kind of where it all started. I immediately fell in love with being here. Something just clicked for me. And I think a lot of foreigners who are now in Florence have that kind of same experience, where just something about the city sort of touched you in a way that was really special. And that stayed with me for many years after. I didn't want to go home after the year was over, and I kept trying to come back any chance I could. I came back again in 2008. So this was all in 2006 when I was in university. I came back again in 2008 to do an internship in Venice. I was here again in 2011. I went back to school to study design. And so I was really just back and forth for a while. And then a little bit later on, I came here really just on vacation at one point. By that point, I had been living in Toronto for a while, and I was working in Toronto. I was doing well with my career. And I decided just to come back to Florence for a trip, make a little Euro trip in the summer. On that trip, I ended up reconnecting with an old friend that turned into a romantic relationship, which turned into a 2-year long distance thing. And I found myself traveling back and forth. Like, I think I came here 5 or 6 times in a 2-year period. And by that point, I had to make the decision of, okay, is this something that you're going to do? Do you want to live in Italy? And if you do want to, make that decision. And so I eventually made that decision that it is what I wanted. And I was at the point in my life that I could do that independently. So I quit my job, bought a one-way ticket, and that was back in 2018. And that kind of started a whole other journey of how I had to redevelop my art career and my life really here in Italy.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. I feel like you need to write a book.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot in there.
This is a true story about an artist who moved to Italy. Oh, I can see it. I can already see you in the movie playing yourself. That's so awesome.
That's a good movie.
It would be an awesome movie. I don't know. I know it's none of my business, but I'm like, ooh, whatever happened to the guy or the partner? I don't know. It's fine.
He's still here. He's still here.
He's still here. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, that is just incredible. I don't know if you ever thought about writing a book, but I'm telling you, your story is so beautiful. And even as a college student, to spend a year abroad, having their own studio space sounds like an absolute dream. So that's so incredible. And I also think that probably took a level of bravery and courage to do something like that, because it takes a lot of effort to but to upheaval or, uproot your life or, do all of those things to move to another country. I don't know if you spoke Italian at that time, or if you do speak Italian. I'm guessing you speak Italian now. But
yeah, it's kind of been a transition. So that very first time I came here as a student, I had never been to Europe. I had never been to Italy, and I didn't even come on a vacation. I came by myself as a 21-year-old and just sort of like flew here on my own to be here for a year. So, and it was really the first time I had ever been away from my family. So it was a really special year. At that time, I didn't speak any Italian, but I did do my best to study and to learn and, get myself by. And obviously the relationships I made with the other students. So that was a really special time and obviously really life-changing. And then when I, speed 10 years later, when I decided to move here, obviously I was much older. I was in my mid 30s. I was much more comfortable living on my own, but I still had to basically, it was kind of like the end of a huge chapter of my life. So everything I had known about my life up until that point, I very consciously knew that that was coming to an end and I was going to start everything new again. So, and by that point, I had learned more Italian and I'm more comfortable now with the language. But coming as someone who was moving here was a much different experience than coming as a student for 1 year or coming on vacation, because you don't know what's going to happen. It's not easy to start from the bottom again, you know, building up your new career. So there was a lot of that sort of fantasy and dream elements were kind of on the side for a while, having to deal with the realities and the difficulties of, you know, having to rebuild your life at that point.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for explaining that and for sharing that. And I commend you. And I can only imagine, when they say your growth happens outside of your comfort zone, that's when you grow, and you must have grown leaps and bounds during those transitions both times. And I, again, commend you for the courage it takes to make such a big change. And you seem very, very happy, and your art is incredible. I would love for you to take a chance to describe your art. You have 2 series going, that I know of. And can you talk about them, your work?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I do, you know, this is one of the things that as an artist, we kind of struggle with when you have different bodies of work. You and I have had conversations before about, you know, balancing what do you do with an identity when you have these different bodies of work. But as you described in the beginning, I am an abstract artist. Characteristics that describe my work are very bold, very colorful, very gestural. So that sort of expressionistic discourse of art, that's kind of where I'm at. Traditionally, I started painting very large scale, so I'm very comfortable also painting at a large scale. And so that has really been the defining factors of my work. My approach to painting, I really try to create experiences with the imagery that I do. I like to create, I want the audience to have get lost in conversation with the painting. So when I see someone looking at my art and I can see that their mind is sort of thinking and curious, that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to capture. Kind of like listening to a song where you have melodies and your different emotions and thoughts. I'm really connected to the experience of creating a visual language that gives that interaction with the audience. And that's what I go through when I paint my work. So that's really the foundation of what I've done. And so the second sort of body of work that I do really developed as I moved here to Florence. And I'll sort of talk about the background of how it developed, and that kind of gives context to where and how that style emerged. So when I moved here, like I said, I had to start from the bottom. I'm from Toronto. It's a big city. And if you're an artist in Toronto, there's a lot of different ways to participate in the community. You can do art fairs and exhibitions, and there's always calls for submissions, festivals. There's all kinds of events and things that you can do. But none of that was really here in Italy. That's not how artists here work. Those opportunities simply weren't available. So I had to sort of look around and ask myself, what is it that artists do in this place to make their career? And what I sort of observed was, Florence is culturally a very artistically rich city. Art is a very big part of the framework of the city. And also the tourism in Florence is, it's one of the most highly visited European cities. So with the art, culture, and tourism, there's a really large system of street artists. And for anyone who's been to Florence, you can see street artists really scattered throughout the historical center. And when I came here and I saw that, I thought, well, this is something I can do. And it's also something that I can do right away. And it's something that I can sort of get going because I didn't have the luxury of time to figure all of these things out. I had to start working. And so that's what I did. I found out how the system worked, because you can't just, go on the streets and set up and start selling. There's actually like a legal procedure and you need permits and all of that stuff. So I figured it out and I started to work part-time as a street artist. I got myself sort of a 1-week permit to kind of figure it out. And that's when I started to do smaller paintings, and I started to do more landscape style paintings. I was already experimenting with small landscape work before, but when I had this opportunity to be out in the city selling my paintings, that's kind of when I tried to develop it a little bit more. Because also when I came here, I didn't even have any artwork. I couldn't bring all my paintings here with me. I had to literally create everything from scratch. And I didn't have a studio space, of course. So I started to do all of these really small, kind of abstract, kind of landscape paintings. Like I didn't really know what they were at the beginning. And so I was out there trying to like sell my art, and thinking back to that first time, I have to show you a picture of it. I had this like little folding table and a few like paintings up and just a folding chair, whatever I can manage to bring myself. And I went there for a week and I managed to, sell enough paintings to make it kind of worth my while. And from there, I started to develop this new collection. It took me kind of a while because I obviously wanted to reflect the city. I was, in the center of Florence, so I had to represent the city and the architecture and the landscape. But at the same time, I didn't just want to do the same kind of work that everyone was doing. So most of the artists there are doing watercolors, and they're painting the old bridge, and they're painting the cathedral in a very kind of classical way. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure that my own style and my own artistic identity was relevant in the work I had there. And it took me I spent maybe like a year developing this style, experimenting a lot, experimenting with composition, experimenting with materials, because I didn't know, what materials were good to use. And after about a year of doing that, I finally started to develop this style, mostly based on the architecture and the streets and the piazzas. And I would paint them in this very kind of abstract way. A lot of people describe it as almost mosaic looking.
Mm-hmm.
So I paint very expressionistically, and then I kind of contour all of the colors and all of the forms, that when you look at it, you can see very clearly the composition that I'm representing there. And that became very successful for me. I started to, once I became comfortable working in this style, it was very unique. So, in the backdrop of all the other artists, it definitely stood out. And I was starting to get a lot of good momentum. And so that's really where this style started. So my collection right now is predominantly of Florence, obviously. But of course, my intention is to go even beyond that, other cities in Italy and also, other countries, other places that I've traveled and visited. I have a lot of ideas, but basically this sort of travel style art, I call it, really developed from that experience.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you for sharing. And your work is very, yeah, you definitely have a signature style. And I know that sometimes, there's a lot of tourism art wherever you go to a place that has a lot of tourism, and all art is relevant and important. And I can find appreciation in it. But I also really appreciate that you found a way to differentiate yourself and do something different and think outside of the box. And yes, you can tell that it's this iconic building or space, but it has your style to it. And it does look like stained glass, and it's so fascinating, and it does pull you in. And it's not a typical, it's not a typical Italian cityscape, or, so I think that's wonderful. And I'm just so like excited to listen to your story. And a few questions I had was, you rented a corner, you got the permit for a week, and then you had your little setup, which I think is so cool to talk about, because as artists, we all start there with the card table and the flat displays and the janky business cards and, maybe a couple sales trickle in, but it's just enough to dangle that little carrot in front of us and tell us it's possible and keep going and to build
Yeah.
and elaborate on that. So after you had that week long, what were you a street artist then for a while, or were you pursuing other spaces, or I know you have an Etsy shop. How did that kind of evolve as far as
So
like, where did you sell?
yeah, I've always done a few different avenues. And like I mentioned, there's a system for the street artists here in Florence. And so it's actually still not my permanent gig. I'm still only doing these sort of 1 week permits at a time because in the winter I'm not out there. I'm just not set up yet to do that. So I did that first initial week, and then I always kind of gauge it. I didn't know what was going to happen. I said to myself, if you can make enough money in this week to pay your rent, then you're going to do it again. And I did. I made a little bit more to pay my rent. So I did it another week, and then I did it another week. And I just kept doing that. I took a break for the winter and I went back the next summer. And I got a little bit better every time. My setup got better. My paintings were getting better. I was getting smarter about how I transported my stuff because I don't have a car here. I can only bring what I can literally carry with me. So I had to be very smart about how to set it up, but it is still a part-time thing. So usually throughout the summer from April or May until September and October, you can find me there 1 week every month. And that's kind of how I set myself up. And in between all of that, I sell my work online. I also, I do workshops, I teach, I do design. So I do have a lot of different facets as a creative professional that keep me busy other than, simply being the street artist. And I also find that, it's also very fulfilling for me that I can, it doesn't get boring. I've got all of these other things that I can keep doing. So, but it is still very much sort of a summer thing for now. And then obviously during the pandemic, right when I was at that point of figuring it out and knowing that I could kind of really do well at this, tourism totally stopped completely. So disaster for the artists and for the street artists here, obviously. And it was at that moment that I was able to transfer my platform online. There's a really great creative community here in Florence. So the networking with this community is really kind of what helped me to survive. The friends that I made, we supported each other. It kind of helped me to give me recognition online. So it helped my Etsy shop bloom. So that whatever I lost in person, selling in the square, I was able to recuperate online. And now that tourism is back and everything is started getting back rolling, I've now got these avenues of my presence here in the city, but also an identity online, which I think is extremely important.
Oh, it is so important. You definitely have to not put all of your eggs in one basket. I love that. And to talk about that, to say, you do feel fulfilled doing the various different things to bring in your income. I agree with you. I think if I had to paint 40 hours a week, I would burn out and I would be very lonely. So it's good to have other avenues and ways to be creative and to be a creator. So I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing. And okay, let's see. Da, da, da. What does a typical day look like for you, Jen Leo? I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of things going on.
Yeah, yeah, I have a lot. I don't think I have a typical day. My schedule changes day by day, and I actually hate routine. Um, I'll have some weeks where I do have to follow kind of a strict routine. Like, I don't think I could ever have a Monday to Friday job where I have to be at the same place, same time every day, because I get tired of that very quickly. So my days look differently. I kind of set myself up week by week. So at the beginning of the week, I know the big things that I have to get done. If I have meetings I have to go to, or if I know I have a painting I need to work on, or I know I have like an appointment or a workshop to do, I'll sort of choose what days I'll do what things. And then I kind of let myself go with the flow. So I try to get my appointments scheduled within no more than 2 or 3 days a week. So all of my other days are free to do my painting, do my work online, normal life stuff. So I tried to just make sure that I balance my days between being out of the house and being, able to be in my studio. And it kind of changes week by week. But I also really like that if I have to sort of pivot. I think that flexibility and that freedom is also something that I've learned is a huge value of mine.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Variety is the spice of life, right? I can relate to
Absolutely.
I can relate to everything that you just said because it's interesting. My husband's like, "What are you doing today?" It's like he never knows what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, and
Every
it
day is an
changes,
adventure. It's
Yeah,
so
it changes.
exciting.
Sometimes I'll be like, I'm going to do this today, and then something changes, and the main thing is I know what I have to get done, and I focus on the main things that I have to get done. Like I can say that I'm not much of an early riser. Like I don't start working right away. I like to wake up sort of at my leisure. I'm not a morning person, and I need like at least an hour just to kind of relax and chill at my own pace, and then I'll sort of late morning get myself started, and I can be, multitask, be quite busy throughout majority of the day, and then start to wind down around like dinner time or whatever. So, that kind of midday, I'm mostly kind of multitasking and always on the go doing something.
Mm-hmm. I know. That's good too. I like a slow morning. I do. And I think that's
Yeah.
good to talk about because I feel like there's so much, it's like the gold standard is that, waking up at 5 a.m. and doing all the things right away. And, it just doesn't work for certain people. And that's totally okay. And to figure out what time of day works good for you, when do you feel energized? When do you feel motivated? I think that's more important than trying to fit in some kind of mold of what we should be doing. So,
Absolutely. I think everyone has their own approach to working. And I've always been a night owl. I'm the kind of
mhm,
person that I am my most productive later in the day. Now I don't live alone anymore, but before I would always, if I'm alone for the evening, I can work to all hours of the night. And I get a lot done as a night owl. And that's just kind of the way that I'm programmed. So the years that I've spent where I was working at a job where I had to sort of work mornings and afternoons, I was working in my days, not getting what I needed to get done, go home and then work all night. So that wasn't really working for me either. So I think we need to recognize as a culture that, some people having that flexibility is also really important.
mhm. I agree. Sometimes it's just, you can just it's like your brain works differently. I know for me at night, and I don't know, my creativity is different. And that's good. It's good to mix it
It's the
up. And
distractions,
yeah, oh yeah.
the quiet.
Maybe my brain is tired by the end of the day, so it can't be distracted as much. I don't know.
You're not thinking of everything you need to do.
Yes, yes. Okay. Aside from being a studio artist and designer, what do you like to do that fuels your creative spirit? Do you have any hobbies? What do you like to do that's creative? Or do you feel like you're creative enough during your daytime that you don't need to or want to be creative, which is fine too. Either way is good.
No, I think I've always got some kind of project on the go. I mean, as of recently, I don't have much time to do some of the other things that I like, but I'm a creative person in all kind of realms. Like I'm a painter, but I love working with my hands. I love sculpting. I love textiles. I would say aside from all the arts that I have interest in, I love to cook. I'm so happy being in the kitchen. Like I can be in the kitchen all day. Cooking, baking. I love making things from scratch, and I love like researching about foods and how they work and recipes and experimenting in flavors. So I think cooking is also like a really big passion of mine, and I get a lot of pleasure making meals, trying new stuff, having dinner parties, all that kind of stuff. I think is also like a really big passion of mine. But I also see it. It's obviously an extension of my creativity
Mm-hmm.
because when I'm in the kitchen, I also feel that sort of like creative energy. So I would say that's probably the next thing on my list that really kind of sparks me.
Oh, okay. What do you really like to cook? I'm assuming
Oh,
pasta because you're in Italy, but what
yeah,
could be something
honestly,
different?
it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I cook all kinds of things. Like I grew up in Canada, so I was exposed to a lot of different types of cuisines. I mean, obviously, I have a big specialty in Italian. So yes, I'm very comfortable doing like fresh pizza and pizzas and breads, etc. I'm comfortable with all that stuff. but I also like doing other cultural type dishes. A few days ago, I made sushi, or we'll have some like Indian inspired food, or I'll just sort of create with what I've got in the kitchen. I can't say that there's one thing, just, whatever I have on hand, creating something from it.
I love it. We're going to exchange recipes because
Yeah.
I'm very same. It's like I want to make all the things. I enjoy cooking too. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What is a dream project or collaboration for you? I just want you to say it out loud because that helps make it happen. But who knows who's listening? What would be a dream for you?
One of the things that has been in my mind, and it's really kind of a dream at this point because I have no way to actually make it come into fruition, really, but I would love to do more international artist residencies. I would love to travel and have that travel inspire my artwork and create work based on travel, both on an emotional level, but also, developing my body of work. I would love to have the experience to go to different countries, different communities, spend some time in residencies, and have that part of my art practice. So that's definitely a big dream thing on my list. And other than that, I think I would love just to have my dream studio space, maybe that was open to the public, like a workspace that was, just huge and has everything that I need, and it's comfortable to work in. Like, I've kind of notoriously worked in sort of uncomfortable studio spaces, but I think I would love in the future to have like just a big, open, beautiful workspace that would also be sort of a co-op space with other artists, because I think that also social aspect of it is super important to me. Not just being, kind of always on my own, but to do more with other people, other artists, and have that sort of interaction and sharing in different settings. So I think that's something in the future that I'd like to see develop.
Ooh, all of that excites me. Hey, so where first place you want to have a residency? Do you have a place in mind?
I don't know. I guess it could be almost anywhere. I would love to do something maybe in Spain or maybe in France. I mean, other European countries are kind of like appealing to me. Yeah, I think those would be two. Spain for sure would be one that would be on my list. Anywhere around nature. I think I'm more inclined to sort of like beautiful natural places as opposed to like a big city kind of place. So I think places that you can really have almost like a retreat in a countryside, or I don't know. I think I'm more inclined to beautiful places in terms of the land as opposed to sort of like
buildings.
The big city.
Yeah. Because at first I thought, well, she's going to say Paris because why not? Right. But French countryside would be beautiful too.
Yeah. It could be, but I don't know. I feel like anywhere would sound good. I think, yeah, anywhere really. I want to travel the world.
Oh yeah. I know, it's exciting, right? It's an exciting time to start traveling again. So I hope I can see it all. I can see your big studio and that collaborative space. I can see you doing that, Jen. And I'm excited for you. All of that stuff.
I'll get a Tuscan villa and I'll run my own artist residencies.
Yes. Or a retreat weekend, all the things.
Collaborators, we'll get on board together.
Okay. I'm in. That sounds amazing.
It's on the list.
We're going to have to talk about that maybe. Okay. Not to switch gears, but because I could talk about that all day. Tell us about Art Battle, which I apparently live in a hole and had no idea what that was. That's why I messaged you. I was like, can I come? Art Battle. And what's your involvement with Art Battle?
Yeah, so Art Battle, my story with them started probably back like a little bit before I moved here. And it's funny, it's one of those things that is actually, it's a very large organization that's been around for, I think they're celebrating like more than 15 years. And they're present internationally, really. It is a live painting competition. So it's an art event where it collaborates a set of painters. So we get 12 painters and they have 3 painting rounds. We have 6 artists in the first round They paint live for 20 minutes, totally freestyle. And while they're painting, the audience, there's music, the audience is watching, good time. They do that for 20 minutes. Then we have a second round of the artists, and then we have a third round of sort of the top two artists from the first rounds that people vote for. And then at the end, there's a winner voted by the audience, et cetera. It's not really about the competition. It's more about sort of this live painting event, sharing the beauty of creating with the local community. So it's a really good thing to bring together the local community, the artists, do something fun, have a good evening, all in the kind of spirit of art. And it's just like a fun night. I participated in it in Toronto as an artist. I did a couple of shows in Toronto, and it was kind of on the cusp of me moving to Florence. And so I connected with the organizers and I said, look, I'm moving to Florence. I think it's a great city to do this. I would like to be the host of this event in Florence. And so that's what I did. And when I moved here, it was sort of on my to-do list. And I actually had the first event in Florence in 2018. And it was a huge success. I did it at a local, I guess, hotel student residency. We had a really great, successful show. And then now I'm doing the second one. So I had like a huge gap between the first and the second show, but I just connected with a new venue. And yeah, we're going to have the second show on July 27th. So right now I'm working on getting together artists who want to participate, volunteers who want to come to help out at the event, and of course, guests who want to come and see the show. And so, yeah, that's all happening on July 27th. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. And like I said to you, so this is something that happens in cities all over the world. So if you go online, go to artbattle.com, you can probably find something, if not in your city, close by. And if you've never been before and you have the chance to go to one locally, like definitely check one out. If you're an artist, apply to paint because it's just fun. It's not about you don't have to be, at a high level. It's not about you don't have to be shy. Like everyone's just there to have a good time, no judgment. So for all of your listeners, if you have the chance to go see one locally in your area, yeah, check it out for sure.
That's so cool. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes for sure. And so do you pay to go see it, or do the artists get a cash prize? Or I'm just always thinking about the money part. I'm like, oh, how do they do this? So
it's a ticketed event. So you have to buy tickets to go to the event for the guests. The artists, they don't have to pay anything to participate. It's free, actually, and we supply everything they need. We supply the easels, the canvases, the paint. The only thing the artists have to bring is their own set of paintbrushes. That's it. And then after the painting is finished, we also auction the paintings. So the audience has a chance to do a silent bid for the paintings. And then obviously the artist will also get a portion of those sales. So if anything, you come for the show, you come to have a good time as an artist, and you might even walk out making some sales at the end of the night. And there is also a prize for the winner, which is sometimes monetary, but oftentimes also a certificate for, something local. So there is also a prize for the winner at the end.
That's so cool. That is so much fun. I did a live painting event twice in Grand Rapids, and it was an auction. They live auctioned and they had music, and it was so fun. And just the energy of the crowd watching you, it's like part nerves and part whatever energy they're giving off. That sounds like a riot. Okay, I'm gonna check it out. I'm hoping that the Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo area has something. Probably Detroit, if anything. But I'll let you know if I go to one.
Yourself, eh? Start one in your hometown.
I guess I could.
And anyone can.
Anyone can start.
I think your town is good. Yeah, if you have a city that you live in and think that it would be successful, contact them and say, hey, I think this would be great in my town, and they'll get you all set up.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. I love that. Let's all make more cultural events like the art battle happen.
Yes.
Because we need it. And people need things to do, especially the artsy things. Absolutely. Okay. I'm even more excited now. All right. Tell us, Jen, about your projects and exciting things you have coming up for the rest of this year and for next year. What do you have coming up?
So this event is the first thing, the next thing that I have coming up. Like I said, it's on July 27th. So for the next couple of weeks, I'll be focused on getting that organized. I still am out in the piazza next week. I'll be there selling my paintings. So if you're in Florence, you can find me definitely out there. I'll be slowly adding some new stuff to my shop as well. And then in September, I have a group exhibition from September 21st to 28th, also in Florence. It's a fundraising event for the war effort in Ukraine. So it's a collaboration between myself and 3 other artists. It's going to be a fundraising art exhibition and auction. So I'll also have a couple of pieces in that show in September. So those are the main things that I've got going for the next few months.
Okay. Sounds like you have a lot going on. That's awesome. That's so exciting. All right, Jen, how can we best support you? We can join your mailing list, purchase artwork. Tell us all the ways that we can support you, because we are now even more excited about what you're up to. And my listeners are very supportive people. So
I think the best way is to go to my website to start, www.jenleostudio.com. And that kind of branches into all the different things. Obviously, you'll find my artwork there where you can buy original art, you can buy prints. My blog journal is also there if you like, because I do a lot of writing, if you want to, read about my life as an artist. And then it also connects to all of my social media channels as well. I'm regularly on Instagram. So if you just want to hang out and connect, you can catch me there. Like you said, I have an Etsy shop. It's all linked through my website.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Do you have time for a rapid round of questions?
Yeah.
Because we want to know all the things that really matter.
Yeah, the most important.
The most important things. Now that we've talked about the serious things, let's have some fun here. So top of mind, no judgment at all. What is your favorite color?
A toss up between green and orange, but probably green.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you like nature. So that makes a lot of sense. What shade of green do you like the best?
I like a really kind of deep, I think I like deep colors in general, like jewel colors. So like a nice deep, almost emerald kind of green. Those are things that maybe not as much in my art, but in sort of fashion and things that I'm drawn to. It's usually, if there's a green option of something, I usually like the green the best.
Okay. All right. When you're in your studio, what is your work beverage of choice?
I'm kind of boring. I always make sure I have some water handy, and I almost always forget to drink it. So just because I usually in the afternoons, just water, and if I'm lucky, I'll actually get to it.
You're not boring at all. In fact, this is funny because I thought all of my artists would say coffee because that's such a stereotype, right? But water and tea are my number. I should keep track of that, like have a score here, but water and tea are the 2 big ones. So You're not boring at all. I think you're very interesting. Do you have a book or a movie mention that you want to talk about? It could be each one or the other or both.
Sorry, a book or
a movie mention, something that.
I think there's too many movies. I've got a really terrible memory for movies, but there's a book that I read. I probably read it like back in university, called Journey by Moonlight. And it's by Antel Zarb. Kind of like a random choice, but when I read that book, it's always been kind of my favorite book, and one of the novels that I can kind of pick up at any time and just sort of read at random. There's just something about that story that I always have kind of kept handing in over the years. Go back to reading it just to pass the time. I would say that, and also short stories. For example, Italo Calvino, the Italian author, I do enjoy his short stories as well. I can't read long books anymore, so the short stories are really perfect for me now.
You're gonna have to send me the name of that Italian author because you lost me.
I read it.
I'm gonna put those in the show notes too. So okay. All right. So people get their ideas and inspiration in different places. For me, it's driving in my car, zoned out, looking at the countryside. That's where my big ideas come from. Other people, it's the shower. Do you have a place where you get your ideas or inspiration? Or maybe you're doing a certain activity?
I think it's not so much a certain place. I think for me, the most important thing is that when I can just totally disconnect, like when I know I have to think of an idea and I'm stressed about it, that's the worst for me. So usually when I'm out walking, like you mentioned in your car, I don't drive anymore. Obviously, I get around by walking. So when I'm out walking, that's usually when, I can't be scrolling or thinking about whatever. So that's kind of when my mind is sort of at calm and my ideas sort of come to me. And then I also get inspiration just by the things that I observe. And that's also one of the things that I love about being in Florence. It's such a beautiful city. So just like walking down the street and you'll see like the sunlight hit a building in like a terracotta building at just the right moment of the day. And it's just such a like simple but beautiful things. And those things really kind of give me inspiration. And in those moments, I actually have like this sort of inspiration to paint in the moment, just from the light and the colors that I see walking out and
Mhm.
about.
Do you ever feel inspired to plein air paint while you're out walking or have a little
I
sketchbook with
usually
you?
see sometimes I don't find like in the city center, I don't feel so comfortable because just like it's not convenient for me to take myself out. But sometimes on my balcony, I will, or I do usually at least try to have a sketchbook. So sometimes when I'm out in the city, not so much the plein air painting, but I'll do like my pen sketches with of the architecture in streets. Yeah, so that sketchbook out in the city for sure, I do quite a bit.
Okay. So cool. Okay. If you were to be good at something, like for me, I wish I were good at volleyball or most sports in general. Is there something that you wish you were good at that you admired? Because I know I have so many people tell me I'm not good at art. I wish I could draw. And then I say, well, wish I could kick a ball. So is there something like that for you that you'd like to share?
I think one of the things I've always wanted to learn to do well, and I've just never taught myself, would be to play an instrument, either the piano. I love people who can play the piano, maybe even the guitar. I think I went through a period when I was younger that I wanted to like learn the drums, but I think it just playing an instrument, I think that's really something that I wish I could just sort of go and do. So maybe in the future, I'll finally find the time to learn some kind of instrument.
Yeah, I know musicians are so cool, right? Same.
Yeah.
I can relate to that too. All right, last thing. Is there some kind of advice that you want to tell people who maybe are getting this nudge, especially because you have listened to that nudge maybe to travel or to do a study abroad program or to even move? Is there something that you can take from your story that you would like to pass on to my listeners as far as advice?
I think you really have to be honest with knowing what it is you really want and what kind of life you really want. Um, my kind of motto is choose your own path. And if you don't know what you truly want, it's really hard to make it happen. And then when you know that, you can go through the steps to make it happen. And you really have to um, dedicate yourself to it, because if it's not coming from a genuine place, you won't put in the dedication, you won't put in the work. The reason that I'm here and the reason that I've got the life that I have now is because I've been dedicated through it all of these years. I never turned my back on the kind of life that I wanted, and I've worked day by day to ensure I have the life that I wanted, and I'm still building it. And sometimes that comes with sacrifices. Find out what are the values that you really hold, and what are the things that aren't important to you, because sometimes you have to be uncomfortable to get those things that you do really want.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so good. Well, mic drop. We're done. I love it. Jen, thank you so much. I appreciate talking to you and your time. and everything that you shared with my listeners. You're such an inspiration and a testament to listening to your heart and following and choosing your own path. And I'm so grateful to get to know you and to have gotten to know you through the Art Queens and our little breakout group that we're in. And I'm so excited to see all of the things that you create in the next year, coming years, and to get to watch you grow and to move into that beautiful dream studio someday and all the things. So I know that my listeners are going to love this episode and get to know you even more. And that's so exciting. And it's just a great time to be an artist. So thank you again for sharing with us. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. And come back next week. I'll have more artist interviews going on this summer. And thanks for listening to I Like Art podcast. We'll catch you later. Thanks again, Jen, so very much.
Thank you, Sarah. So appreciate the chance to talk to you.
Yes, we'll have to get together and chat again sometime soon. So thanks again,
Sure,
everybody.
sure.
Have a beautiful and creative day, and I will catch you all later. Thank you so much. Bye.